This will be an extremely short and brief analysis of Israel's attack on Iran, or Israel are not being forthright with accepting responsibility for it, and Iran seem to not even be acknowledging it, or they seem to be downplaying it. Again, because Iran does not want to escalate anything just now. They've had a strategy of strategic patience, right? Of course, their patience narratively seems to be growing thin. And again, I stress narratively, because this is all a narrative, right? Leading to the continuity of an agenda and the conclusion of it. And of course, we're in the midpoint of this Yovel cycle, or this grand Sophic cycle, which is to find its terminus within the years 2049 and 2050. I covered all of that in my video, The Grand Sothic Cycle. I would implore you to view that. However, within the Brookings Institute from June 2009, titled Which Path to Persia? Options for a New American Strategy Towards Iran. And I mean, you could only really describe it as a manual for terrorism and the overthrow of regimes, or not regimes rather, a manual for terrorism. So we have the table of contents, for example, and these are the three options for, again, provoking Iran into a wider regional and hopefully, global conflict. This is all designed to reassert American dominance globally, right? All of these various instances are, right, of them attempting to provoke other countries into war, or to merely push other countries and power blocks into weaker geopolitical positions, right, either regionally or globally. So for example, we see with the table of contents of this analysis, part 1, dissuading Tehran, the diplomatic options. And that is subdivided into chapter 1, an offer Iran shouldn't refuse, persuasion. Now this was written in 2009, and of course, it doesn't matter really who gets into power. Now of course this was written in 2009, and you had the 2015 Iranian nuclear deal, right, under Obama's administration. Chapter 2, tempting Tehran, the engagement option. Again, provoking Iran. So part 2, disarming Tehran, the military options. That's subdivided into 3 chapters. First chapter, going all the way, invasion. Second chapter, the Osirak option, airstrikes. Chapter 5, leave it to Bibi, allowing or encouraging an Israeli military strike. Part 3, toppling Tehran, regime change. That's subdivided into 3 chapters. Chapter 1, the Velvet Revolution, supporting a popular uprising, Colour Revolution. Chapter 2, inspiring an insurgency. Wow. Inspiring is a euphemism there. What they really mean is funding and arming a terroristic movement against the prevailing central government there. Supporting Iranian minority and opposition groups. Chapter 3, the coup, supporting a military move against the regime. Wow. And then you have deterring Tehran, containment, accepting the unacceptable, containment. So they don't want that. They don't want to just contain Iran. They want to actually eviscerate it and to bring it into this neoliberal slave system. So, of course, that's failing spectacularly, it seems. However, again, I don't think this is going to end here. I think Iran doesn't want to escalate it any further, but you have some absolutely fanatical people within both the American, British, and of course Israeli government. I mean, I can't stress enough, these people are absolutely fanatical. They're an existential threat to the human species and for global peace and global stability and for the survival of the world itself and of course the species. I mean, they are an absolute existential threat, not just on this account, but in other issues, other factors play into this. Of course, I can't mention in detail those factors, but you can imagine what these individuals have done. Think back to 2020, that's all I'll say. So, my summary is thus. Yes, it was planned out, all of this. In a 2009 military report on the options the US-Israel could utilise to provoke Iran into a larger regional conflict, the window of opportunity, or the veneer of it, for the survival of the neoliberal order and the maintaining of the hegemonic dominance by the US-Israel is closing rapidly, with the defeat of Ukraine nigh on the horizon, along with the disastrous hit to power projection that would afflict the US in the wake of that. They must reassert themselves globally in a spectacular fashion and in any way they can, right? Again, a global conflict. That is the only way. They're not going to take the easy way out that the British Empire did, which was to decolonise. That rapidly became apparent after the failed Mau Mau rebellion. But that issue, I mean, it really hit home, I believe, to the British establishment that the empire was untenable coming into the sort of modern era, you know, the era of modern warfare and the era of the ease of insurgencies, right? Simultaneously, while the situation in the Middle East is escalating, the US has stationed military assets in the Philippines and Taiwan. Hence, they seek a provocation on 3 fronts, hoping one will work and permit them to reassert their global hegemonic control and stem the hemorrhaging, both internationally and domestically, of the neoliberal paradigm. Of course, this is merely the narrative being set forth for a wider geopolitical and ulterior agenda that continues unabated, no matter who is in charge. The slow, rolling machine that seeks to take the species to a global dominion, a dystopic future that continues along, no matter who is in charge, no matter the mask that power wears. Once the US inevitably loses this little proxy war in Eastern Europe, then the end of the neoliberal order shall become apparent. The hit to power projection will be grave, and if the US does not go quietly, then this may result in the heightening of tensions within the Middle East or the Asia-Pacific region by the US, as we see, as the last roll of the dice to reassert their global hegemonic status on the world stage. In short, it will be the USA seeking to take the entire world down with them in a world war, with ironically the US global hegemony beginning with the conclusion of a world war, and the conclusion of that said hegemony being ensured by the beginning of another. Indeed, this will also spectacularly fail, and the bizarre neoliberal establishment will, with much global rejoicing one can imagine, be deposed by unfortunate circumstances. However, from the loss of the USA's position on the world stage, then we could see de-dollarization begin to increase in rapidity. This will lead to financial turmoil in the West and the disintegration of the postmodern values and institutions that have been defended and expected here. We shall experience an Untergang des Abendlandes, or in its proper nuanced translation from the German. Of course, that is the title of Spengler's 2-volume magnum opus. We shall experience a descent of the land into the twilight of evening or winter. People have absolutely no idea how bad things are actually going to get in the wake of the end of US hegemony. The transitionary period will be a tumultuous and bloody affair.